All right, it's almost midnight, November 18, 2021. Moon is directly above. We got a low lunar eclipse tonight, 97%, which is basically a full lunar eclipse. And the early phases of the eclipse are about to begin. So we're at Burton Sugar Farm tonight, and we're going to show you some footage of the lunar eclipse of November 18, November 19, 2021. All right, so what are we using here tonight?
Well, we've got a Teleview 60 refractor.
We're just centering the moon here. Penumbral phases are about to begin. It's about midnight. How's that look?
And then for the camera, we have a ASI 224.
ASI 224. All right. It's about 35 degrees outside. Nice crisp early winter evening. It's always nice to know somebody has an RV when you're out in a remote site observing.
That's right. At my house the other night. It was horrible. Got the Astromobile here.
There you go.
And
Not bad.
we can easily boil more water.
Cheers. So penumbral phases are beginning.
Yes.
About another hour before it starts getting into the Umbra. So we won't actually see the effect of the eclipse for another hour or so.
Right.
So what's the plan?
So I've got several things that I want to try tonight. So the first thing is the reason we're out at Burton's, you know, because you can just watch a lunar eclipse from home, right? So usually when you're doing lunar observing, you don't have to go to a dark sky site to do lunar observing. But there's a reason we're out at Burton's tonight. And this is something that I've never experienced, so I'm looking forward to it, is when the moon is at maximum eclipse, I want to look at the difference and the sky brightness. I want to see
The contrast.
right. I want to see the faint stars coming out. I want to see if we can see the winter Milky Way running through
How dark
Orion.
is it really
Yeah.
get?
So what I'm doing actually is I'm taking a measurement to try to put some kind of a quantification to it. So I took a reading about 30 minutes ago, and then I'm going to take a reading during maximum eclipse, and then we'll see the difference. We'll see how much darker the sky gets. The one thing I didn't really think about is usually when you take a sky quality meter reading, you want to do it from the zenith because you want to avoid any kind of light domes that might be on the horizon. Well, I couldn't really do that tonight because the moon's at the zenith. So, you know, that's going to throw the reading off. So what I'm going to do is I try to get away from the ecliptic as much as possible. So I just took a reading toward Polaris.
Got it.
And then during the maximum eclipse, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take a reading toward Polaris. So
a little after midnight now.
yeah.
When do we start seeing noticeable changes in the sky. A little after 1:18 is when the
Right.
umbral phases begin, so it'll be closer to probably 2 a.m. before we
Right.
start to see
Yeah,
that,
we'll
right?
start to see the moon disappearing a little bit, and so I think maximum eclipse is what, 3:02? Is that right?
3:03.
3:03. So at 3:03, I'll take another reading, and of course we'll take some video. But more than anything, we want to observe it too. But another thing you can do is rate the eclipse itself. How dark is the eclipsed moon? So there was a French astronomer, I think he was back in the 1950s. His name is André-Louis Danjon. And he actually created a rating for how dark the eclipsed moon is. And it's a 5-scale rating from 0 to 4. So 0, and I've never seen this, but I've read observing reports about them. So a 0 is just an eclipsed moon that is so dark it just looks like a hole in the sky.
Wow.
You can't see any detail at all.
Nothing on the surface of the moon.
Yeah. So
Fascinating.
so that would be a 0, and I don't expect that tonight, especially since it's technically a partial eclipse. There's still going to be,
97% partial.
there's 97%. There's still going to be, that 3% left. So I don't expect us to have a 0. And on the other extreme end, a 4 is you get a copper orange moon. You can still see detail, and you may even see like a bluish outline.
Yeah.
And then of course, 1, 2, 3 is something in between.
Yep.
I want to try that out. Try that out tonight. That's called, it's Danjon. That's his last name. Danjon.
Almost
Yeah.
like the mustard. Right.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to try that tonight. So I have 2 ratings. And I guess what affects, so what contributes to how dark the moon gets? It seems like some of that is still up for, they're still kind of deciding it. But one thing that can affect it is volcanic eruptions. And there are several volcanoes that are erupting in Central America right now. There's one in Alaska that's erupting. So that's one thing. Danjon had a theory that the closer you were to solar minimum, that would make an eclipse darker. So solar minimum for us was 2019. And he said within that 2-year period, that the eclipses would be darker. This was kind of a hypothesis that he had. And if that's true, that would bode well for us. We're still within that. I think a solar minimum was December 2019.
Yeah.
So we're still within that 2-year period. So we'll see if that has any effect. But what I read before I came out, it seems like most scientists think it's just simply a function of the Earth's atmosphere.
Right.
And so if there's some high clouds, then you may have a darker eclipse. One unfortunate thing tonight is maybe it's too clear.
Right.
Looking at Ventru sky, it seems like there's no clouds at all. So
It's kind of ironic given what the forecast was. just a few
right.
days ago.
So it looks like we're not having any high altitude clouds either. So if that's true, then I'm expecting a bright eclipse, but we'll see. It'll be kind of interesting. The third thing I want to do, another thing that I've never done, is I want to time the Umbra on one of the lunar craters. When it hits the rim, when it hits the center, and when it hits the other rim. The crater that I'm going to choose is Cleomedes. And Cleomedes has a nice central peak. It's a nice sized crater right by Mare Crisium. I just want to see how quickly the Umbra passes over this crater. I've never really timed the passage of the Umbra over a crater.
Over a crater.
Right.
Kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And you have a peak in the middle of the crater, so you can actually measure.
Exactly.
You can see the shadow as it passes.
Right,
over.
right. So I want to see that. And then the last thing, what would really be awesome tonight is if we saw some impact on the moon. And as crazy as that sounds, that happened. The last eclipse we saw, that 2019, January
January 2019.
Yeah, that eclipse.
There was an impact.
There was an impact, and
amateur saw it.
Right,
yeah.
and they recorded it. So why not tonight, man?
You never know.
Yeah.
So, the moon is still being impacted.
Right.
Has no atmosphere, of course. So anything that gets ensnared by its gravity, if it's just a little hunk of rock, on the Earth it will burn up in our atmosphere, but on the moon it travels through unimpeded. So impacts are still happening today.
Yeah. So I think we'll get lucky tonight. Maybe we'll.
Well, we've gotten lucky with the weather so far.
Yeah.
So, so far, so good.
All right, it's about 1:18 in the morning, and we are getting into the umbral phase of the eclipse. So it's starting now. See the disk of the moon starting to darken. Let's see if we can center this. And we are getting into the early phases of a full eclipse. So for the next hour or so, we're going to be entering totality. Wow.
Talk about the horned moon.
Uh-huh.
Look at the moon right now.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yep. The horned moon. It's 1:39 a.m. and we are well into the umbral phase now, and the moon's umbral disk is taking a pretty significant chunk out of the disk of the moon, and it looks pretty dark this year. We can actually see the sky getting a little darker. Orion for sure. I'm looking at Orion and Canis Major, Gemini, Canis Minor. Those stars are definitely getting brighter. The sky is definitely getting darker. So this will be an interesting experiment to see when we get toward totality here in about another hour or so, just how dark the sky actually gets. And but definitely noticing the stars coming out. You can see the Dipper on its edge, Leo behind it. So pretty interesting. We're about halfway there now. Halfway through totality. The sky is getting considerably darker. You can see the Dipper coming up. I can see Leo coming up. I mean, I can see details in Gemini now. I can see both feet of the twins. I'm starting to see the winter Milky Way coming out. Orion is just popping. So is Canis Major, Lupus. I mean, it's getting considerably darker out here. This is kind of like the opposite of a solar eclipse, when you see the sky get dark during totality and then some of the planets come out. This is fascinating. All right, it's 2:02 a.m. You can see we're over halfway. Most of the disk now is eclipsed. The sky is getting considerably darker. Feels like a dark sky sight now.
Nothing like the blood-curdling sound of howling coyotes as you're watching an eclipse. All right, it's 2:46 a.m. and we're almost to totality now, about 30 minutes away. You can see most of the moon's disk is covered. Just a very faint sliver on the left edge there, about 7 o'clock. And you can see that the ball of the moon, the disk of the moon, is starting to turn that orangish red color, which is so indicative of a total lunar eclipse. It's dark out now. We can see constellations. We can see the winter Milky Way. And it's basically a dark sky sight. We've got howling coyotes in the background. Kind of an eerie sight, but we're observing the total lunar eclipse of November 19, 2021. Again, it's about 2:48 a.m. All right, it's 2:55 a.m. and you can see just a little sliver of moonlight on the left edge of the limb at about 8 o'clock. You can see a star popping out on the right side there about 4 o'clock. As we get near totality, mid-eclipse, November 19, 2021. Just amazing. So we're at mid-eclipse now, and you can see, you just see a ball, very faint sliver on the left side. That's it. Again, it's a 97% total eclipse, but I mean, the sky is dark now, and I mean, we can see the constellations clearly. You can see the winter Milky Way clearly. This is why you come to a dark sky site to view a lunar eclipse. And of course, we got to battle frost and dew as we get into, wow, it's just amazing. The entire moon is almost covered now. Yeah, there you go. You can see what happens to optics on a cold night. My telescope is completely frosted over. Yeah. All right, we're at mid-eclipse. Again, it's about 3:18 in the morning, November 19, 2021. Just a very faint sliver on the left side of the moon. Otherwise, it's completely dark. Again, it's a 97% total eclipse. But the sky is completely dark now. Constellations are out. We can see the winter Milky Way. And just a kind of this orangish red ball in the sky where the moon is. So we're at mid-eclipse now. November 19, 2021. 3:18 a.m. All right, it's 3:32 a.m. We're just past mid-eclipse, and the moon is starting to move back out of the Earth's shadow now. So you can see the left side there of the moon's limb getting gradually brighter as the shadow approaches crater Tycho, and the moon is going to start getting brighter now in the next hour or so as we move out of totality. 3:39 a.m. We just saw Comet Leonard. Our first look at Leonard, which will be brightening as we get into next month. And the moon is brightening as well. Shadow is just past Crater Tycho, and we're starting to see a change in the landscape as we move out of totality. All right, it's 3:45 a.m. and the optics are starting to fog up a little bit, but you can see we're back to our crescent phase. The shadow has just moved past Crater Tycho as the moon slowly gets brighter. And we're starting to see a noticeable change in the landscape also as it brightens. But moon is moving out of the Umbra and gradually brightening as we observe the back end of the eclipse. All right, it's 4:11 in the morning and the moon is pretty much back now. It's about 60% illuminated, so it's again moving out of the umbral shadow of the Earth as the eclipse is winding down. Still looks spectacular in the binoculars, but it was really a fantastic night to view the eclipse. Now, why a dark sky sight? Why not do it from your driveway? The real advantage of coming out here to Burton's, our dark sky site, is we get to really see the contrast not only in the moon but on the landscape from when the moon goes full to when it goes dark during the eclipse. That was really spectacular to see the constellations come out, to see the Milky Way, the winter Milky Way come out, and basically it was transformed from, you know, a full moon landscape where you could easily navigate, walk around, to a dark sky site where you needed a red light to get around. So the contrast was really quite spectacular. We'll get the sky readings in a little bit and compare data. But that is the real advantage of observing a total lunar eclipse at a dark sky site, as opposed to just from your driveway where you may have urban lights, you know, street lights, maybe, you know, a house light on or whatever. So you don't really get that full effect of the contrast of the change in the landscape when it goes from being full to being, you know, maximum eclipse in the Earth's umbra, the deepest part of the Earth's shadow. So this was really the first time I had experienced something like this at a dark sky site. So spectacular night. You can see my face is frozen, my hands are frozen, my optics are frozen. We're in the low 30s right now. So it's been a great night. We're wrapping up here. But if you get a chance to view a lunar eclipse in the future, consider getting to a traditional dark sky site. If you have one in your town where you do you're observing for your deep sky objects, your galaxies, your star clusters, whatever you go after on a moonless night, get there for the lunar eclipse and you'll really see the full effect of the landscaping change from when the moon is full to when it's, you know, eclipsed. And again, there's nothing like seeing a fully eclipsed moon in the sky either. Just the different colors that come out, you really get a sense of it as a ball just kind of hanging in the sky. So that was spectacular as well. So anyway, we're wrapping up again, November 19, 2021. It's a little after 4 in the morning as we observe the back end of the eclipse.